Well, good afternoon, and standing up here, taking this opportunity to look out across this crowd is just amazing. I've sat out there and for 3 years straight now at this symposium and listened to some magnificent people. I don't think we realize how much John Duarte has done for this conference. But when you put on conferences and you're behind the scenes and everything that goes on, let's give John a big round of applause because he's tremendous. Thank you. Well, coordination, not cooperation, not collaboration. Coordination means equal. And that's what I'd like to start off with, is getting you focused on that particular thing, equal. We've heard a lot of people talk, and I've not heard anything that made them equal to who they were talking with. I'd first like to start off with telling you a little bit about myself, my family, our business, what's happened the last 14 years in Colorado, and then we'll come back to coordination and land use planning. I am in my 40th year of the real estate and profession. Scared to death of microphones, right, Trent? I do have a high school education, that'd be 12 years, and an adult education of 40 years that money can't buy. We have a family-owned business that we started back in 1984. I was very fortunate right out of high school to get into my profession and decided not to go to college and took 6 years to understand what the business was all about, got my real estate license, and boy did I get my feet wet. 1984 we started our business. My wife was a preschool teacher and I talked her into becoming the CFO, which is a good thing, right, ladies? Take care of the money. My son Bryson is a full-fledged partner now. He started selling his first auction with me when he was 10 years old. Makes me very sentimental every time I think about it, because what an opportunity. My favorite daughter, oh wait, she's my only daughter, Jocelyn, who's here with us. She's our biggest fan as she carries out her profession in the ag lending. Of course, my two children picked very well. We have a wonderful daughter-in-law and a wonderful son-in-law, and 5 wonderful grandchildren, 3 to 8. We have 3 full-time employees, and we have approximately 10 part-time employees. Now, everybody knows that runs a business. John, you have a lot of employees and met some of them last night, fabulous people. But those are the people behind the scenes that make it all happen. At a young age of 12, agriculture became a situation that was taken. It was not taken in the format that you might be thinking of in this setting, but 3 years of consecutive hailstorms came to the point where my father and his banker decided that was enough. Well, we truly did live off the farm. We hand milked 3 cows, we separated the cream, we had a lot of chickens, and every Saturday my brother and I, and my younger brother and I, and my mother went to Sterling, Colorado, 30 miles down the road, delivered cream and eggs, went to the grocery store, got the essentials that we couldn't raise on the farm, and back home. Yes, we had 60 head of ewes, we had 40 head of beef cows, and anywhere from 30 to 100 head of doe rabbits that we raised fryers. My dad got a fryer contract. So it was pretty interesting growing up, and I guess when 3 years of hail came and they sat us kids down and told us what was going to take place, yes, the world came to an end. Mother Nature had taken the opportunity for me to grow up on the farm. Of course, they were on rented land, and when the equipment and the livestock were sold, they moved us 4 kids to town, 7 miles away, Brush, Colorado. Now, I've moved 7 whole miles in my life, and I tell you what, that's a unique opportunity. Is there anybody else that's moved less than 10 miles in the crowd in their entire life? Isn't that unique? That is very unique, and especially in what I do. Mom and Dad moved us to town in the car that they owned, and $536 to their name. Now that was devastating. My family, my current family, does understand the importance in production agriculture. We're very passionate about it. We try to give back each and every time that we can. And there's a lot of it that we have the ability to. We have a lot of people in our area, 180-mile area is all the further I get from home in business. We try to give back in that whole stretch until last year when Trent made me venture to Nebraska to buy a champion hog at the local fair. Very honored to do that. In 2004, I was approached by two gentlemen, Dr. Chuck Leaf and Vic Quint. They were in search of a spokesperson for a passion that they had called property rights. They came to me and said, you know, we've got to do something. We need a spokesperson. We have a vision, and we would like you to think about it. Well, eastern Colorado was on the verge of a water war, amongst other things. And Dr. Leaf, a hydrologic engineer, who had a federal appointmentship years ago and walked away because he could not continue to do what they were asking him to do. Vic Quint, a local farmer, might be the most unique farmer that I've ever met in my life, had a tremendous ability to look into the future and connect the dots. Without hesitation, I accepted, and we started what was called PRFW, Property Rights Foundation of the West. Now, before I explain what went on over the last 14 years, I would like you to really focus in on something you're already thinking about. Federal and state agencies, something we all have in common, we deal with each and every day. The burden of proof. Why is it on us? Always on us, the burden of proof. Connecting the dots. You folks are already connecting the dots. You're doing a very good job of it, but it must be a focus at all times, connecting the dots. In moving only 7 miles in my life, it was easy for me to focus on my backyard. That's all I know is my backyard. Washington, D.C., I don't know nothing about that. I was there for 3 days as a National Young Farmer Officer, but I don't know anything about Washington, D.C. I very seldom get into the state capitol. I pay attention at home and what's affecting us at home. My focus became very clear when those two gentlemen that started the PRFW with me said, we've got to stay to the point, we've got to be focused, and we have to keep it simple. We have to keep it simple. Colorado is one of 2 states that does not get their water from another state. I'm certain you probably knew that. Colorado's water flows into 18 states. Well, with my background and the understanding of the importance of water, the right to use water, it became very, very easy for me to stand up and protect that right, which, by the way, indirectly affected me. Now, that's what I call an opportunity when you be able to stay at home and you understand what's going on around you and how it affects you. I don't need to tell this group this, but anytime anyone in agriculture is affected, any sector of it, rancher, farmer, whatever, it affects the entire country. Agriculture is the backbone, and they always will be. Well, the things that went on the last 14 years, and I'll just go through them quickly. California, you think you got water problems. Holy cow. I don't know that we wrote the book or you did. But Colorado, being one of 2 states that water doesn't come from another state, one of 4 states with a water court. And we've got all these straws sucking the lifeblood out. Well, 2003, the Empire Lodge case. 2005, state legislation. 2007, 4,000 plus wells shut down. 2010, 3 states agreement. 2011, very high groundwater. And 2012, FEMA finally comes to the rescue. Oh, yay. Oh, yay, you got the picture, right? Well, let's back up a little bit and let's kind of explain that. 2005, when the Empire Lodge case, when the Empire Lodge case was done, that was the state engineer granting a water right to the Empire Lodge vacation place. Downstream diverters said, that water right's injuring us. Took the state to court, prevailed. That court took the state engineer's authority away to manage the South Platte River. Now, does that sound like chaos? That's exactly what it was, chaos. 2005 legislation decided, 2 years have gone by of chaos, we got major problems, legislation decided to step up to the plate. Now I want to take you back to 1969 before I talk about 05, but the Water Rights and Adjudication Act put the irrigation wells in the prior appropriation system at that time, made them junior. I'll talk about irrigation wells and what they have, the importance down the path here. But 2005, state legislation said, we're going to give you your authority back, state engineer. And oh, by the way, farmers and ranchers, high production wells will now enter into a new augmentation plan, which requires you to put 100% of your depletions back in the river. Now, 1969 said they had to put 10% back in when they put them in the prior appropriation system. 2005 said 100%. What did this mean? That means that every person out there with an irrigation well needed to figure out a new augmentation plan, acquire the surface water, and make sure the plan said, or the engineer said, that that water will hit the river at a time and place when needed. Now, it could be 1 year from the time you pump that well, or we've got wells that are 60 years from the river. So you have to own water today that you're going to put away 60 years from now in the river, and you have to have an engineer design that for you. Isn't that interesting? We call that junk science. Junk science. Well, that's what 2007 said. 2010, of course, we've got this water in the river. All these farmers went out and bought water. They're dumping their stored water directly in the river. They're diverting out into ponds, and it's leaching back to the river. We've got the upper reach of the river, we've got the middle reach of the river, and we got the lower reach of the river. Of course, the lower reach said about time. We got return flows coming back. We got more water in the river. Guess what came? 3 states agreement, federal fish and wildlife. 3 birds and a fish. We talked about this, Trent? 3 birds and a fish in the middle of Nebraska. Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, 3 states agreement. Colorado agreed for the first year to 10,000 acre feet of water and $10 million. Today, they're producing 28,000 acre feet of water and $10 million. In 20 more years, there'll be 130,000 acre feet of water run through out of the state of Colorado into Nebraska for 3 birds and a fish. 2011, of course, you can see that we are draining everything to the river. We're creating a lot of water in the river, and guess what? 2011, we started seeing water where we've never seen water before. Coming up in fields, coming up in basements of subdivisions, flooding things like crazy, ruining thousands and thousands of acres of tillable soil, and of course, homeowners saying, what's going on? Well, as I said, 2012, FEMA came to town. And boy, did they come to town. Every opportunity for them to step up to the plate, tell us what their study from 2008 to 2012 did. They also developed new base elevation maps that raised the flood elevation 5 feet. All houses in the east half of Brush, Colorado today that are built from this point have to be 5 feet higher than the others because of the new base elevation maps. Well, let's take a little look at this. The city and county They didn't have to adopt it. They didn't have to be part of it. But if they didn't, it says that their area, where they have the authority, if they don't adopt these new rules and regulations, they don't comply with the program, no one can buy federal flood insurance. No one within their jurisdictions. And if you want to go get a loan and you live in that jurisdiction and it's a federally backed loan, it requires federal flood insurance. See how all the dots are connected, how they tie everything together? Well, they developed, not only they redeveloped the floodplain, but they had a new development called the floodway. The floodway is where they said, we are need to reserve lands and save lives. Well, the floodway all of a sudden made me directly involved. Not indirectly any longer, but directly involved. My property where we conduct our auctions, I acquired in 1998. It was in the floodplain. I fully understood it. With a real estate background, I fully understood it and knew exactly what I was buying. The floodway changed everything. I now have to hire an engineer if I want to build a building, which we had in the plans. But if I want to do that, I have to hire an architect to design and an engineer to engineer. If the engineer says that what the architect designed changes the flow 1 inch, you cannot build. So basically what they've done is you have to go to the expense of hiring an engineer, hiring an architect, and then seeing if the engineer comes up with the right information, and then all of a sudden you can build. Well, wait, FEMA's got the last say-so. Remember, lands they want to reserve and lives they want to save. Well, we'll get on with that, but we'll be back to FEMA. Staying focused on the 3 topics I talked about. Do you now see the strategically aligned agencies? Do you see the burden of proof, like each and every one of you have talked about? It's now easy to connect the dots, and it always has been easy to connect the dots. Huge impact on our county comprehensive land use plan. As I said, thousands of acres out of production, unbuildable lands now, a definite taking of private property rights. But as Wayne Hage will tell you, and he says it over and over and over, and a lot of people miss it, you got to make your case ripe. There's some steps in there that I don't have time today to go through, but none of us have a complaint until we make our case ripe. We've got to take some steps. I've got to go home, and I've got to get busy on this, and I've got to take some steps to make my case right. Well, let's talk a little bit about our Constitution, since we haven't done that. Constitution, the Fifth Amendment does say that a right can be taken, but not without just compensation. I might add that it's applicable to our state and local governments by operation of the 14th Amendment. I'm repeating exactly what Angus said. I'm repeating exactly what a lot of people say. Wayne Hage just explained to me another version. They don't have the right to take your land. And Wayne will visit with you about that, and I'll let him explain that. But just compensation is the important part. Let's talk just briefly about what truly is a property right. You know, for the longest time, Trent was talking about personal property rights, and I'd say, Trent, private property rights. Well, you can talk about it any way you want, but the way I look at it, yes, we all agree it's a God-given right. Private means yours, not anybody else's. It's yours. And a property right is what you can do with your land. It's not tangible. It's not something you can reach over and feel. It's a God-given right that you can do with your property. What does that do? That creates additional value to your land. It creates additional value to the land around you. It gets entered into the comprehensive land use plan. It establishes a higher taxation entity, and it creates a good, stable environment in your local community. Well, I might note, now when you talk about county comprehensive land use plans, The agency implementation of the plan and its regulations do not trump your property right. Your property right is protected by what the title rules, or what the rules and regulations were at the time the property was developed. Again, Wayne Hage, I thank you for making that very clear to me and agreeing with that. We talked about that for a long time. This brings us to coordination. Section 1712, Title 43 of the Federal Code. Now I'm going to read this because this is not my words. This is what Fred Kelly Grant has put together. A lot of you people know Fred Kelly Grant. I got the opportunity to work with him over the years on coordination. You know, Fred Kelly Grant is what would you call him? A retired federal prosecutor that went to a federal defense lawyer halfway through. And I asked him one day, I said, why'd you change from a federal prosecutor to a federal defense lawyer? And he looked me right in the eye and said, because I found out I was representing a better class of people. And I found that quite interesting in what we do today. Section 1712, Title 43 of the Federal Code, developed in 1976 by Congress, recognizes the importance of local authorities to the management of the nation's resources and the actions of the resource management agencies. Coordination means the federal and state agencies shall give prior notice to the local government of agency plans, management activities, and among other criteria requires that the agencies make their policies and management actions consistent with the local plans. Congress has directed the agencies to coordinate with the local government, recognizing that local authority must be involved in its decision-making process by being at the table of decision, and coordination means of equal importance, one not superior to the other. When the local government notifies the agencies that they expect to be coordinated with, the burden to comply is on the agency, which means providing full disclosure, studies, and plans of action that they may be considering that may affect the local jurisdiction. Local governments which understand the role of coordination are in an important position to insist that their community not be harmed by federal and state regulations. Would this change the burden of proof? Absolutely. Again, through coordination, the agency plan must be consistent with the local plan. This is where you and I, the stakeholders, come in. Coordination means government to government, but any local government body that truly cares about the tax base will appoint a coordination work group or an advisory council. In this capacity, citizens from various industries of the community can help write, implement, and enforce local plans and to help monitor the agency activities to ensure that they are complying with the law. Using the congressional mandate of, quote, coordination is a way to bring the decision-making process back to the local level. We the stakeholders, we the people at the local level. The coordination mandate was adopted by Congress 42 years ago. In 2017, 22 members of Congress, led by Paul Gaza, Arizona, chairman of the Congressional Western Caucus, Ken Buck, Colorado, and Doug LaMalfa, California, presented an executive order for President Trump's consideration, as well as 3 policies that renew Congress' call for coordination. It has been said that coordination is just a tool in the toolbox. Now, these are my words again. As I said, it's been said before that it's just a tool in the toolbox. Well, folks, it is just a tool in the toolbox that definitely does work at home. At the local level, if properly adopted, properly invoked, coordination is government to government and can be used in any taxation district, library district, water district, fire district. Yes, cities can utilize coordination, any taxation district. But I felt at home that it was better through the county, because at the county level it includes all those districts. And you must prove the economic impact if you're going to utilize coordination. You must prove that. And trust me, the agencies all know about coordination. Every plan that comes out has the coordination language required in it. We, the people, aren't asking them to use it. We aren't requiring them to use it. It's in every plan, the language is in there. Because if it isn't, it's a federal offense. Well, local comprehensive land use plans are intended to be what? Yeah, a record of our property rights. Isn't it pretty simple? Our property rights are developed, they become a use by right. And that's the record of what goes on and what's allowed. You have different types of requirements in your local land use plan. You have different types of hearings. But use by right is very, very important and definitely identifies a property right. Through coordination, we can lay our plan on the table and find consistency with the federal plan. We are at the table of decision. You know, it's not like a public meeting where you go to a public meeting, they tell you, please sign in. So a lot of people sign in, they sit down, they listen to your comments, they listen to your concerns, they give their presentation, and then they go home and do nothing but use your signature to inform their superiors that everybody's in agreement. And that's exactly what happens. They use your signature in that way. Now, I wasn't going to say this, but every public meeting that I go to, which they're required to have 3, that's the minimum amount of public meetings an agency can have. But everyone that I go to, and they say, oh, sir, I kind of walk by the table, and they say, oh, sir, we need you to sign in. And I said, well, I'll be happy to come sign in after the meeting if everything I hear is agreeable to me. So when you try to go there after the meeting just to heckle them a little bit, because you ain't going to sign, I'm not, they're nowhere to be found, because they're already taking those signature pads and they're already figuring out how to put them in wherever they need to go, and somebody's working on that already, saying that you agreed. Well, coordination is not being utilized. I can go on and on and on about what mistakes, why I haven't been very successful. But I can only speak for myself and PRFW. We adopted coordination properly. We were very persistent in getting coordination adopted at the county level. We provided education. The entire Hage family has come to Morgan County, Colorado, except for Wayne Jr., and we're going to get him there one of these days soon. But the entire Hage family has been to Morgan County and helped educate us. We utilized our public awareness opportunities in local radio, website, local newspaper, speaking appearances, and other organizations. I have a radio program at 6:45 a.m. in the morning, 10 to 12 minutes. Our Property Rights Foundation of the West is on the radio every 30 days, the third Thursday of every month. We helped write the Coordination County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, or we helped write coordination in that. All of this was done in the adoption of coordination. We were very persistent. Lincoln County was very persistent. Other counties were very persistent in getting it adopted. Well, the challenges of invoking and implementing, some people like to call it implementing, the proper term is invoking. Coordination is, and I want you to all think about home, identifying 1 or 2 topics, 1 or 2 topics that are affecting the most people in your area. That's kind of hard to do, isn't it? 1 or 2 topics when you connect the dots. You have to organize your citizens on those 1 or 2 topics and perform activism in making your voices heard. In dealing with divided, passionate interests, we need to work with all sides. As I told you, in the water situation, we could have used coordination so handedly, because when the 3 states agreement came in, their measuring device in Colorado was what was called the Tamarack. Division of Wildlife owned land and a measuring weir, a place that even I can jump across the stream. That's all the bigger it is. Federal Fish and Wildlife Service did not include it in its EIS. All the counties had to do involved was get together under the coordination mandate, send them a letter, and inform them that they did not include Tamarack in their EIS. Would have bought us 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years for one simple letter. We need to develop the strategies. Well, when FEMA comes to town, implements new rules and regulations, and your city and county government, your elected officials that you've educated and educated and educated, give in, well, you've got a divided situation. You've got people that FEMA took out of the floodplain that had water on their property as late as 2015. And so you instantly have divided and conquer. That's what every agency is very, very good at, is dividing and conquering, turning neighbor against neighbor. And when you think about it, I see some head shaking, kind of watch how that is. Well, it's hard to get everybody together and develop the strategy and spread the word. I would like to share with you what I witnessed at a coordination meeting in Lincoln County, Colorado. CDOT was the agency. The topic was a relocation of a railway for the purpose of freight from the city out to the county. Now, that was the front, folks. The real thing was a corridor from Mexico to Canada. That's what the real thing was. A group called CAR, Coloradans Against Railroad Relocation, was the organized public activism. $1.4 million had been spent on a study by CDOT for this relocation. CAR had 9 lead individuals who had run themselves ragged, chasing public meeting after public meeting. Upon them attending one of our coordination seminars and then requiring their elected officials to meet with our elected officials and all the other elected officials that were within the right-of-way, and listening to Fred Kelly Grant as to how coordination could possibly work, the Lincoln County Commissioners decided they were going to go for it. They adopted coordination into their county comprehensive land use plan. They invoked it by informing CDOT that they wanted them to coordinate. After numerous requests, CDOT agreed. The meeting day was set. Lincoln County Commissioners did an absolutely wonderful job that day. They had the room set up perfect. And if you think about that and think about the things that you can do, I don't care what we do, auctions or whatever we do, proper setup of your room and proper preparation means lack of piss poor performance, right? Did I miss any of them, Trent? The 5 Ps? But they had it set up perfectly, really did. They opened the meeting. They basically read through the agenda. They recognized who was going to participate in the meeting by introduction, and they turned it over to their advisory council, which was the CAR group. These young men had studied their lesson. Weston kind of reminds me of some of these young men. They studied their lesson. They all spoke the same amount of time. They presented the facts in the order of the message that they wanted to deliver. Their topic was the $1.4 million study that CDOT did. These young individuals went in and started researching the state reports, the state agricultural reports, and getting the facts out of there that directly pointed out the myths of the study. And I thought it was very, very interesting how they did that. When they were done, the commissioners turned to the attorney. And of course, that was during a time when 200 people in attendance, you could have heard a pin drop because they had their attention. The attorney was recognized and said, "Do you have anything else you'd like to add on behalf of the county?" And he was the smartest attorney in the world. He said, "No, I believe the advisory council has covered it all." Well, the floor was turned over to CDOT. They had requested a recess. They needed one. Upon the recess being over, CDOT returned and simply said, well, it appears very clear to us that we must go back, study our plan, and readdress our project. Well, folks, that was 7 years ago, and it's yet to resurface today. I didn't check today, but yesterday it hadn't resurfaced. So that's 7 years of time that they bought by calling CDOT to the table for a federal project. CDOT was just a front. Well, in closing, I would like to summarize with focus on the topic, folks. We've got to stay focused. And that's what allows us to do at the local level. Join together and utilize the resources. You know, wisdom isn't wisdom unless you're willing to share it. And believe me, the resources that you've gathered here at this symposium, the resources that we gathered last year and the year before, everybody has something to share. Everybody has knowledge. John, does coordination work in your situation? Wayne, does coordination work in your situation? You know, some of these other topics, the next two speakers up, does coordination work in his situation? No. But you are so important to your local economy, of your knowledge and your understanding of how agencies truly work, that you truly are the lead person in the advisory council. I'd like to end with, you know, our forefathers went through great sacrifice. They cleared a path. They truly cleared a path for us called the Constitution. We study it and study it. We're all working together. Time is of the essence. I believe it's up to us. We must keep the fight going, and we must make a difference. I like to say, starting at home is truly where you start making a difference, because that's where sovereignty is in our Constitution. Like I said, I thank the H family for everything they've done. I'd like to thank the 3R Symposium. Being asked to join this podium with such talented people is humbling. So again, thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.